Hi class, my name's Cariete and this is my research project on the Gothic era of art history. I chose to focus on the Gothic era due to the mesmerizing architecture, and of course, as a little girl watching The Hunchback of Notre Dame, then finding out the cathedral existed in real life, excited me to learn more about the art during this period. And this relates to our art history course because the Gothic era occurred around the 12th to 16th century. I have three main focuses, rose glass art, Notre Dame, and Bible Morelesi. Some cool information first. The Gothic art evolved from Romanesque art and lasted from the mid-12th century to as late as the 16th century. This was the bridge between medieval and Renaissance eras. Gothic art has nothing to do with the Goths themselves. This is a derogatory term that carried over to the 19th century. However, we still standardly use the term today in art history. This was created by Renaissance writers in Italy because they linked the unfolding of medieval architecture to barbaric Gothic tribes who were responsible for the fall of Roman Empire and classical culture in the 5th century CE. This Gothic period consisted of very large, very fancy architecture and art. And this was mainly due to advances in building techniques like tracery, which made it possible to create taller cathedrals with lots and lots of windows. The early Goth period was a period of peace and prosperity, growth, and art creation, whereas the later Goth period was more about conflict and turmoil with war between France and England, religious rivalries amongst popes, bubonic plague that wiped out a third of the population in 1348, and then this affected artist progression due to less accessibility and downfall of architectural art, unfortunately. All right, first, rose glass art grew its popularity in the 12th century, mainly in Spain and France. These rose windows have smaller windows that radiate from the center, usually found in main parts of a church at the ends of cross-shaped transepts. Features beautiful stained glass that lets in light and depicts images used in sermons. After all, this was a place for worship. I think this photo just grabs that perfectly. It's gorgeous, and it represents how different parts come together to form a whole using geometric patterns to emphasize this idea. Creating stained glass was very costly and labor intensive. It involved adding gold to the glass, cutting and wrapping pieces in lead, painting details, and firing them before placing them in the window frame. So very, very cool. Second, Notre Dame, of course, located in beautiful heart of Paris. It took over 100 years to complete between the 12th and 19th century with modifications, restoration, and all that good stuff. It was built very tall with thick wall structures. And the reason at this time for taller building was to look up to heaven and give that sense of elevated space and height. And as you can see in this photo here, it consists of flying buttresses, which is like the rib laterally supporting the outward weight. And then you can see many spires of then like the main spire, like a temple point, which we see a whole lot of here in Utah. And then there are 3D statues all around. Of course, the gargoyle, we all know that. I love it. It's seriously my favorite. Gargoyles were thought to warn off bad spirits, this being a church and everything. But it was also an architectural plan to channel rainfall, what we know as today as like gutters. So I thought that was really crazy. And then we saw the interior in the last slide, which is very long and narrow with high ceilings, full of illuminating light through rose windows, and an array of biblical features and scenes expressing many religious events. And then I included some dimensions here if you want to pause and read that. Third is the Bible Morelesi, which is moralized Bibles. They were for royal and wealthy in France and Spain between 1226 and 1234 AD. Blanche of Castile, which was a widow of the French king, funded the project while her son, King Louis IX, learned moral lessons from the depictions. There's illustrations of this on the dedication page, which is seen here as well. Images also explain why Parisian illuminators oversaw manuscript production at this time, which is also included here. I think these colors are just fantastic. The blues and the golds just really makes that pop and catch the eye. There are 3 volumes featuring medallions with images made on animal skin, such as cow, sheep, and goat, and each section includes 4 parts: a verse, a roundel, as you can see here, round illustration, commentary, another image that explains commentary, and the pages were then sewn together after completion, forming that book or Bible. And this really highlights the era where Christian values equals good and foreigners and those with different religious values equals bad, hence the name Moralized Bibles. And lastly, my works cited page where I got all of my information from. I hope you enjoyed.